Good morning, fellow ruminators. Welcome back to another session, Rumination with Andrew. And we are about to discuss a very important topical matter. Now, this morning, we are going to continue with our discussion on what is happening on the ground in Haiti and the plans for that country. And I would like to ask a question in opening this conversation this morning. If Haiti yet another time is experiencing another revolution. Are we about to experience, or are we experiencing another Haitian revolution? Remember now that the Haitian revolution lasted for about 13 years, from 1791, I beg your pardon, to 1804, right? It culminated in 1803, and they declared their independence on January 1, 1804. And that is very important for us to study. For those of you who are not versed in the Haitian Revolution, I think to date still, the classic work done by C.L.R. James, The Haitian Revolution, is something that the Black Jacobins, right? His book is entitled The Black Jacobins, and that is the most important work that was done on the Haitian Revolution by the Trinidadian intellectual C.L.R. James. And he really gave a very descriptive and what should I say, a profound analysis of what took place during that revolution. I think James, wrote that book sometimes in the 1930s, was it about 1938? And he updated the book sometimes in the 1960s. So it's quite an exhaustive study, and it really portrays what happened and the forces that were involved in that revolution. Now, we know that for those of us who have studied that revolution, that there were three main countries that sought to overthrow Haiti. Of course, it's slave masters, the French, because remember now that without Haiti, France would not have been as wealthy and would not have been as strong an empire as it was back in its heydays. Without Haiti, in other words, there would be no French empire. It was France's richest colony in the New World. And that is very important that we understand, right? A small island was France's wealthiest colony in the New World. Very important that we understand that. And I think the same thing also is true of Jamaica for the British. They exploited, they abused their power, and they, of course, were very, very, what should I say now? They inflicted serious harms on people, upon the slaves, and they counted them, as we know, as chattels, right? They were just mere objects to be used as donkeys, or worse than animals, I would imagine, right? Because some people take care of their animals and do not try to overwork them. Some do, some don't, right? But as far as the British and these European people were concerned, these European slave masters, these people were just mere objects to be used, to be enriched by their labor, by their free labor. Now, fast forward, we are now in 2024, and the minds of people, the spirit of slavery still continues to dominate the souls of men. And that is something very important, that even though we do not see in our hemisphere, in our neck of the woods, slavery, but it is still a system that is practiced around the world, in some parts of the world. And in some cases, when we look at our economic realities, we can't but say that this is also a new form of slavery. Very important that we begin to understand that. When you look at the policies of the IMF and the World Bank and the Inter-American Development Banks, and all of these multilateral and multinational agencies, and corporations, we can't but say that these also institutions rather represent elements of slavery anew with their neoliberal agenda, with their neoliberal policies. Now, we understand that Haiti is in a crisis. And on Saturday night, I was reading an article from one of the Jesuit magazines in the United States. I think, I can't remember the name of the magazine, but it talked about the fact that Haiti can be described as the Gaza of the Caribbean. Whatever is happening in Gaza, and we know what's happening, what the disaster that is happening in Gaza, and he suggests that Haiti is definitely the Gaza of the Caribbean. It is hell on earth. And that was described by the superior Jesuit on the island of Haiti. So something that you need to think about. Most Americans are concerned about what is happening in the Gaza area, in Palestine, and in Israel, but they have not been focusing on what is happening to their neighbors, to the south. They are not concerned about that. And this is going to be a bloodbath if it continues on this trajectory that we're seeing right now, in which we have these gangs who have taken over. And may I just suggest here on this channel that I am not pro-gangs. I do not think that gangs can rule countries or should rule any country. But what has happened is that it seems to me that they are left with no option. The people who like to freedom and want to have some sort of self-determination for Haiti realize that they have no option but to take the law within their hands. The slaves had to do that, and that's for this reason I am, I am opening up a conversation whether or not this is a second Haitian revolution that we are witnessing in our times. Because when you look at the parallels between what happened during the Haitian Revolution and what is happening now, you can't but think and say that there are striking similarities. One, the slaves understood that their masters would not end slavery. They understood that they were exploited. They understood that there were external forces that wanted to subjugate them, that wanted to humiliate them. And for that reason, they had to take up arms against these three powerful, or the then three powerful empires, which were then the British, the French, and the Spanish. These were the three formidable empires that fought against slaves. And thank God, through the expertise, the military genius and expertise of Toussaint Louverture and Dessalines, they were able to secure, the Haitians rather, were able to secure their freedom. Now, in our realities, we're seeing where the United States is the reigning empire. It is the superpower rather, of the world. And it is collaborating with former empires to also put down Haiti and to control, to dominate what is happening on that island. And today we learned that there is going to be a meeting in Kingston in which these powers, including France, the United States, I'm understanding also that Great Britain will be there. The United Kingdom will also be represented in that meeting, heads of CARICOM. And I found it very interesting that St. Vincent and the Grenadines would be also participating in that sort of meeting. Because has the Prime Minister changed? I don't know about that, but the the president that I knew, the prime minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, he tended not to be in agreement with US imperialism and tended to have spoken out. It seems to me that he has a baptism, that he has baptized into that thinking. I am not sure, but I found it very interesting that Dr. Gonzalez, is he still the prime minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines? Perhaps somebody can correct me, but I found it, if St. Vincent and the Grenadines is still under his leadership, I find it very, very interesting that he will be present at that meeting. But what they're doing, these guys, from the Western media, that is, they are painting this picture as if the United States and the other powers, British power and that's the United Kingdom and France and all of these other powers or former empires mean Haiti well, and they want to restore law and order in that country. But we're hearing another perspective from the civil group and also from the gangs in Haiti. Now that is not so, that the Haitians are suggesting, the majority of Haitians on the ground are suggesting that they're tired of these people working and invading their country. And throughout history until present, when they invade, including the United Nations, when they intervene in Haitian affairs, things get dramatically worse. They get significantly worse than before they had intervened, because they're not there to improve on the lives of the Haitians. They're there for their own economic, political, military interests. And we've got to understand that. A lot of these interventions have nothing to do with improving the lives of the majority of citizens in whatever country that has been intervened. And when are we going to learn our lessons? We have seen US interventions in many countries, particularly after 9/11. And we have seen where the lives of citizens have gotten worse, and many have had to flee their countries. Why do you think you saw the level of immigration, this high level of migration from these Middle Eastern countries, right? Like Iraq and Syria, right? Yemen, among other countries, right? Where you have had many of them flowing into Western Europe and other countries. And you hear people in England, for example, people in Germany, people in Italy, they're complaining that their culture is being changed because they are suddenly being invaded by Muslims or people coming from predominantly Muslim countries, right? And nobody's asking the question, why? Why are they coming? We tend only to talk about, oh, they are racist. And we say that the Italians and the British and the French and the Germans are racist because they do not want to accept these immigrants who are coming from different cultural backgrounds and religious, not only cultural backgrounds, but religious backgrounds. And these are also discussions we need to have when different cultural norms and mores and customs begin now to interact with dominant culture. How is that dominant culture going to change? We've got to talk about this. We tend to look at the superficial and look at, oh, these are some Black people, or oh, these are some white people, or oh, these are some yellow people. And our conversations end there. But our conversations also got to look at the economic, the cultural, the religious factors and influences that these migrants will eventually have on their new homes, the countries to which they are immigrating. It's time for us to grow up and stop just speaking about the color of skin, because the color of one's skin doesn't have anything to do with anything. As I've told you, it is the cultural influences, the religious influences, the psychological, and also perhaps the social influence that we have to look at. Culture plays a significant role in people's worldview and their perspectives. Okay? The Black Italian or the Black German is Italian or is German and has a German or an Italian perspective. The Black American is an American and has an American perspective, even though lots of people would like to suggest otherwise. And lots of so-called white Americans like to say we are different, but they're not different. Culturally, they are the same. You might have some elements of distinctions and differences, just as you have differences in relations and cultural norms among Italian Americans, different from what you'd see among German Americans, among other ethnic groups coming from Europe. But at the end of the day, culturally, they are all Americans. Just like you have people who are coming from Ghana and coming from South Africa and coming from Nigeria. If they have been born in the States, that they will have an American perspective. Of course, they will have some retention of the cultural norms coming from their parents or the cultures from which their parents emerged. But the fact of the matter is that they were born in that particular culture. Their worldview is that country's worldview and perspectives, be they in the form of religion, economics, food, just a wide array of cultural perspectives and behaviors. Yes, that person is a baptized member of that particular nation and culture. So a color does not have to do anything. You know, I was listening yesterday to a program on television Jamaica in which this lawyer, her name has evaded me right now, but she was talking about the fact that Jamaica is breaking international law in terms of if it decides not to accept Haitians, the Haitian people who are seeking asylum, that they must respect international law. I think there were some Haitians who landed in Jamaica, about 30 odd or so Haitians who landed about some months ago, could be 3 months ago, and they were denied, you know, their stay in Jamaica. Jamaicans decided to send them back to Haiti. Now, the fact of the matter is, I think we've got to look carefully at the situation. First, why are Haitians leaving their country? Because we have a situation in which they realize that their country is not safe. And it is not that, for example, Jamaica is much safer. I don't think it's a little bit more stable, but it's not much safer. So the fact that they're moving to Jamaica suggests that they are really desperate, you know, because Jamaica is not, by any stretch of the imagination, a safe place in terms of physical safety. For a small island nation of around 3 million people, its homicide rate is an average of 1,300 to 1,500 per annum. And that to Jamaicans is the norm, has become the norm, because that is what generations have grown up to see and to witness. and they have accepted that particular abnormal homicide rate as something that is the norm. What's new? Right? That is what Jamaica is all about. And yet we hear that we are growing and unemployment rate is at its lowest, and all the nonsense that we hear from the political apparatus in Jamaica. But let's stick to the program here, the topic at hand, which is Haiti. The fact that Haitians are moving to other countries, including Jamaica, we need to understand that these countries also have their domestic laws. And it seems to me, based on what this lawyer was suggesting to her on the program that was aired on Television Jamaica yesterday, that I saw on YouTube, that the lawyer was claiming, she made the claims that international law is what these countries have to follow. So if the international law suggests that you should have X number of migrants per year, because this is the number that you can tolerate in that particular country, no, you've got to follow the rules and regulations coming from the United Nations. And for those of us who have been studying the history of the United Nations, that is, for years, like myself, I have understood, at least since 2004, I beg your pardon, that the United Nations is not what it purports itself to be. I have been exposed to that fact from 2004. And everything that I have studied about the United Nations since 2004 indicates that the United Nations is just an arm of the US military-industrial complex. Well, it has its laws, right? And these laws seem to be laws that, are geared toward protecting us as a global population. But when you look at what happens on the ground and the countries to which the UN has been dispatched, particularly in war zones, you realize that the United Nations does nothing. It's just there. And war seems to be also profitable for the United Nations and its workers, soldiers, its other workers that, the NGOs and all of these organizations and personnel that work along with the United Nations. Very important that we understand that the United Nations is not an organization that is working for peace around the world. I would say none is. No organization, no multilateral organization that you and I are aware of is working for peace in the world. Because their understanding of peace is peace on their terms, control, domination, extracting the wealth of different nations. And what we see is that there is a one world government agenda. Because if you don't follow the rules of your country, of your nation state, and you've got to subjugate your laws to the laws of the United Nations, what sort of country do you have? What is the purpose of having a nation state in this world as we speak? We've got to really ask ourselves some of these questions, because I think that they are pertinent to the discussion that we're having, in particularly surrounding Haiti, among other countries that are plunged into warfare, right? Now, The people on the ground in Haiti are clamoring for the resignation of President Ariel Henry. Now, President Ariel Henry, as we suggested before, is serving in two of the highest positions in Haiti. He's the acting president and also the acting prime minister. What is happening in Haiti? Now, we understand that Jovenel Moïse, the president that was assassinated in Haiti, that the Haitian president who was assassinated on July, or was it in July of 2021, that he had declared Henri as prime minister just 2 days before his death, right? And it doesn't seem as if that election was something that was legitimately done. Seemed like it was a mandate given by Jovenel Moïse. Unfortunately, the president was assassinated, that's Jovenel Moïse, 2 days after he had mandated, he had given the mandate for Ariel Henry to become the prime minister of Haiti. Now, if we remember carefully, would understand that Jovenel Moïse was also not very popular in Haiti among the masses. They thought too that he was not suitable. He was not the president that they would have loved for Haiti. They thought he was just doing the bidding also of the Haitian and the international elites. And Haitians were particularly upset with that, and they have been on the streets since 2016, saying that they are not happy with what is happening in Haiti and that they need some sort of change. Now, if you remember after the earthquake, that the whole government apparatus in Haiti collapsed because of that, the magnitude of that earthquake that witnessed the deaths of over 200,000 people and also the injury. Remember that over 300,000 people were injured, among other incidents, unfortunate incidents that happened on that island. Now, when you had the former president of the United States, President Clinton, and his wife, who was then Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, choosing Mark Haley, who is an entertainer, who is a musician, to become the president. The people were also not happy with that. And they selected him, and he was a friend of Jovenel Moïse. And then when the Haitians also protested against Mark Haley and that he was not doing or fulfilling the mandate to which he had been given the authority to, you know, he was not fulfilling the mandate that the Haitians had sent him there to fulfill. Then the Haitians also protested, and Moïse, that's Jovenel Moïse, replaced him as the president of Haiti. But Jovenel Moïse also was not a popular guy among the Haitians. The Haitians are tired and they want to be able to elect their own presidents and official leaders. But the United States is in opposition to that. They want to be able to control that island. Because at the end of the day, we must understand that the United States has only economic, political, military, and in some cases, religious interests. And we've got to understand that. And if you read Revelation 13 carefully, which you should be reading, the entire book of Daniel and the Revelation particularly, and understanding, because it requires that you know, when you're reading these books, you've got to get into history, got to delve deeply into history to understand the images and the objectives of these empires. And the United States in Revelation 30 is a land and lamb-like beast. Notice that the Bible uses the word, the image. It is just a beast as the other beasts that came up on this earth. Now, a beast, for those of you who do not study biblical history and biblical prophecy, a beast represents a nation, a kingdom, right? So we talk about the fact that Babylon and a lion was the beast that represented that empire, right? We talk about the bear, and the bear represented the empire of the Medes and the Persians. And the Medes and the Persians, in that we talk the Persians, who are Iranians, right? And we have Babylon, which is now sitting on what we know as present-day Iraq, right? So we've got to really look at the the uh, the understanding and the interpretation of the Bible in terms of giving us an insight into what will happen in the latter days. And we know that this lamb-like beast, the United States. Now, why did the Bible, you know, use that image of that expression, lamb-like? Because we know that a lamb represents innocence, and the lamb will not kill because it is a very soft and gentle animal, isn't it? Yes. But the Bible was appropriate because God is the greatest scholar in the universe, because he is all knowing and he knows the beginning, the end from the beginning, right? He knows the end from the beginning. Something that is going to mystify us. We can't even conceptualize that, right? But the fact that the United States has this sort of description, lamb-like, means that it behaves like it's a lamb, but it is not a lamb. It is a horrible beast that will consume as the other empires did. And that is what the United States is on a quest for: full spectrum dominance. And full spectrum dominance does not mean that you're going to say, hi, how are you? Good morning. May I have your economic resources? Full spectrum dominance means that you are going to roar, and when people hear that roar, if they don't run, you are going to devour them, as the lion does, because that is what it's all about. Dominance, complete dominance. And we've got to understand that. And many of us are in our own world thinking that we control, and we live in a democracy, and we control the political destiny of our countries. And if you read your history carefully, you'd understand that you don't control anything, that you are a slave in your country. Doesn't matter if you're white or black or yellow or purple, you are a slave to the system under which you find, or in which you find yourselves, right? But you continue to think that just going to vote for somebody is that which empowers you. And So they give you that opportunity and allow you to continue in your delusional mindset. Now, there was an article in the Foreign Affairs. Is Foreign Affairs? Not Foreign Affairs. I think it was in the, let me open up this here to see what paper, oh yeah, the Foreign Policy, I think, right. The Foreign Policy, and under its Latin American brief, the title here of an article written by Catherine Osborne suggests here that how Haiti's unelected leader lost America's blessing. So, and this is a recently written piece, and I thought, wow, in some of the papers, the Western papers that I have read, it seems to me that the United States is bent on having Henri as the president, as the de facto president of Haiti. It seems, however, that the United States is not certain if it really wants Henri or someone else. Some people are betting or speculating that Guy Philippe might be the one that the United States wants to um, replace Henri. One of the things that is amazing in our world is how human beings, because of their love and their attachment to power, would do anything. They would even enslave themselves, humiliate themselves to gain power. And I'm sure one of Henri's ambitions was to become, or still is to become, president of Haiti, of the country of his birth. But it seems to me, based on what is happening, he might not be able to form the coalition that the United States wants him to form, because he has to form some coalition. He has to be able to work with his enemies and his allies in Haiti. It doesn't seem like he's able to unite, at least from a professional perspective, his allies and opponents. And the United States seems to be about to spit him out of their mouth. And that is something that is interesting. Now, welcome. Here we have the, sorry, yeah, this is where I want. So we have Haiti's Henri is in the hot seat, right? And it says here, Haiti's political and security crisis reached a dramatic new stage on Tuesday after a week of travel abroad. Acting Haitian President or Prime Minister Ariel Henry attempted to head back but was forced to change his itinerary because gangs blocked access to the airport in Port-au-Prince, Haiti's capital. Henri initially planned to instead land in the Dominican Republic and cross the border into Haiti. But for reasons that were not immediately clear, Dominican authorities denied him permission to land, and Henry detoured to Puerto Rico. The same day, Haitian gang leader Jimmy Cherizier, whose gangs control much of Port-au-Prince, warned of a civil war that will lead to genocide if Henry did not resign. And for this reason, we are saying that Haiti is the new Gaza. Because it seems to me, and if we are following the news closely, that Haiti is on the verge of a collapse and that genocide is happening there. Because, last year we heard that there were about, what, 8,400 homicide or murders, among kidnappings and other violent crimes in Haiti. 8,400. That for Haiti is abnormal. That is not the norm in Haiti. Let's give the Haitians their credit. The people on the whole are not violent people. It is not a violent culture. Just read the history of Haiti with regard to homicide rates, and you'll see that it is the lowest, or one of the lowest, in Latin America and the Caribbean. Henry is an unelected, unpopular leader who took office in 2021 following the assassination of then President Jovenel Moise and has remained in power ever since, thanks in part to United States support. But while airborne on Tuesday, Henry communicated with officials in Washington and received a surprising message. The Miami Herald reports the United States wanted him to resign. Now, this is something that is very interesting. Why would the United States of America want Ariel Henry to resign at this moment? Is it because it knows that it cannot control the gangs in Haiti? Something to think about. Or is it now that since they released the Guy Philip, and Guy Philip, by the way, was one of the primary actors in the ousting of President Jean-Bertrand Aristide in 2004, right? Just to contextualize who this Guy Philip is, right? He was one of the major actors who helped the United States in the deposing the former president of Haiti, Jean-Bertrand Aristide. Something that you need to remind yourselves about. So Guy Philip is definitely pro-US and will have the backing if he is willing to aspire for the presidency. He will have the backing of the United States and the core group. In 2023, multiple international and domestic mediation efforts aimed to coax Henry toward a power-sharing arrangement that would lead to elections in Haiti, an outcome that civil society groups in the country have sought since Moise's death in 2021. But Henry resisted making tangible concessions, and his international backers, including the United States, appeared to acquiesce to Haiti's tumultuous status quo. So it seems to me that the United States realizes that his time is up and he needs to go. Although CARICOM lacks a unified foreign policy, Caribbean countries generally promote democratic governance in their public discourse. And this is said by Rashid Griffith, a Barbadian analyst and the executive director of the Caribbean Progress Studies Institute, told Foreign Policy. He added that it's a very strong core tenet of CARICOM and perhaps explain bloc members' stance on Henry, who can't be seen on the international stage to be a credible representative of Haiti. So it means, therefore, that it seems that Henri's tenure as acting president of Haiti and acting prime minister as well is about to terminate. We are not sure whether or not, based on what I've read from the papers this morning, if Henry is going to be a part of the meetings that will be held in Kingston today. There will be a brief meeting of CARICOM, of some of the heads of CARICOM. Let us pull up the people who will be there at that meeting. By the way, the Dominican Republic, its papers, because we know that that Henry should have first landed, or it was planned. That was the plan, that he would have landed in the Dominican Republic, because since it sits on the same island with Haiti, on his way back from Kenya, from Nairobi. But at the last minute, the Dominican officials rejected him, and they did not want him to land in Santo Domingo in the Dominican Republic. Now, this is what Listin Diario yesterday, and Listin Diario is the leading newspaper of the Dominican Republic. And there's an article that I read yesterday, and it says here, this is the president, Presidente Abinader of the Dominican Republic. Now, the article was titled, Dijo que, okay, I think Abinader, Abinader deja claro, Ariel Henry es non grato a República Dominicana. So it's saying here that Abinader has left it clear that Ariel Henry is a persona non grata in the Dominican Republic. So he's not welcomed in this country. And this is what the president is saying. Dijo que esta decisión fue tomada con el interés de salvaguardar la seguridad nacional de República Dominicana. All right. And the president is saying, and he said that this decision was taken with the interest of safeguarding the security of the Dominican Republic. So this is what the president of the Dominican Republic is saying, that the acting prime minister and president of Haiti is a persona non grata in the Dominican Republic. Right? And so the article says here, el presidente de la República Dominicana, Luis Abinader, expresó su preocupación por la seguridad nacional en medio de la creciente crisis en Haití, asegurando que el primer ministro haitiano Ariel Henry no es bienvenido en el país por motivos de seguridad. All right, so here he's saying that the president of the Dominican Republic, Luis Abinader, expressed his concern about for the national security in the midst of the Haitian crisis, the increasing, creciente, which means the increasing crisis in Haiti, right? And asegurando que el primer ministro de Haití, assuring that, or asserting that the prime minister, the prime minister of Haiti, Ariel Henry, is not welcomed. No es bienvenido. He is not welcomed in the country due to security reasons. Right? Por motivos de seguridad. He's not welcomed because they are not sure whether or not he will pose security issues in this country, in the Dominican Republic. So that is something that, and now he's now in an interview with the Financial Times. Let us see what he's saying, what the president of the Dominican Republic, Luis Abinader, in an interview with the Financial Times is saying. Abinader, en una entrevista con el Financial Times, explicó que debido al contexto actual, no considera adecuada la presencia del primer ministro haitiano en República Dominicana, alegando que esta decisión fue tomada con el interés de salvaguardar la seguridad nacional. All right, so he's saying in an interview with the Financial Times, he explained that due to the present context, the situation happening there in Haiti, he doesn't consider it appropriate the presence of the prime minister, that's the Haitian prime minister in the Dominican Republic, right? So he's looking at the context, the situation, the present situation in Haiti. He doesn't consider the president's, that's the Ariel Henry, the prime minister's presence here to be the most appropriate thing to be done. He alleging that this decision was taken with the interest of securing national security, right? So that is what the president of Haiti, not the president of the Dominican Republic, is suggesting, that Ariel Henry is persona non grata, that he is a persona non grata in the Dominican Republic. So it's interesting that the neighboring country, Puerto Rico, which is a U.S. territory, by the way, that he was able to go there Well, I guess that's why he was able to do that, because it's a US territory. So even if Puerto Rico might not want him there, they perhaps had no option because the United States would overrule that decision, right? Something to think about. Now, we have here in this paper, there was a International Institute of New England, and is asking the question why Haitians are fleeing their home and the challenges they face in the United States. And it says, declaring independence in 1804, Haiti became the first free Black republic in the world. 2 centuries later, it is a country of resilient people and exceptional island beauty. Sadly, after centuries of foreign intervention, occupation, and coerced debt, political instability, and natural disasters, this nation of 11.5 million people is also the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. You know, it's interesting that Haiti has a population of 11.5 million people, right? Something that I find to be mind-boggling, because I think Cuba, which is a much bigger island, has a population of over 12 million people. Over the past few months, the number of Haitians forced to flee their country and seek safety in the US has grown rapidly. But it's interesting that the this paper or this magazine, I don't know what it is, has given us the context for which, you know, the context, the historical context for which, Haiti is in the current situation in which it finds itself. Now, Haiti has suffered a long and complex history of foreign oppression, exploitation, and intervention. As a result of this history, Haiti suffers from political instability and corruption, gang violence, drug trafficking, human trafficking, and high incidence of kidnapping, sexual and gender-based violence, and homicide. This has forced people to leave Haiti by the hundreds of thousands, right? And look at how the Gleaner is contextualizing just by, you know, publishing an article coming from the AP, right? Without having a Jamaican scholar from the University of the West Indies contextualize. I was hoping that the Gleaner yesterday would have had somebody from the University of the West Indies, whether it's in Mona campus in Kingston or the the campus in Trinidad or the one in Barbados, to at least give some context into what is happening in Haiti, because this is going to have serious impact on Jamaica and all the other countries in the Caribbean, including the United States of America, because many Haitians will be heading there. We are not certain if many of the criminals that have been released from the prisons in Port-au-Prince are already on their way to the United States of America. We don't know. We don't have any facts as far as that is concerned. What we do know is that many will be heading to the United States of America eventually, because that is where they think they're able to survive survive with a little bit more um, opportunities. They think that there are more opportunities there for them to survive. And there seems to be other agendas that we are not also aware of that I think you should also keenly observe. Now, this is what the Gleaner published yesterday on March 10, 2024 on Sunday. So this is coming from the online Gleaner. And it says here, Haiti is once again facing a wave of chaos fueled by ongoing gang wars, which have spiraled since 2021 assassination of the country's president. Gang leaders have grown increasingly violent and empowered, taking advantage of power vacuums in the Caribbean nation to grow in strength. And as gangs continue to rampage across Haiti, the country's embattled Prime Minister Ariel Henry remains blocked out of the country due to the closing of the airport. And this is what they're saying now. Here's a look at how Haiti got to this point. And they're beginning in January 25th, 2010. Now, this is what, and they go and they have all of these nonsense about why Haiti is in the current. But but you know, Haiti has a longer historical context that the gleaner could have, you know, delved into and could have unpacked. But it doesn't suit the United States. And the Gleaner, by the way, seems to have lost its way. It doesn't seem to be reporting as it used to report the news, as we're seeing in many mainstream, you know, media in the United States and around the world. So it's very, very difficult to really understand and to be able to follow what papers like the Gleaner is reporting, right? Because what they have published in that paper yesterday is nonsense, right? Utter nonsense, because the problem just did not start in 2010. The problem that is engulfing Haiti at the moment did not have its genesis in 2010. And the Gleaner knows that, right? And it would have been appropriate for the Gleaner to have had somebody, as I'm suggesting here, from the university. What's the purpose of the university in Kingston? Or the University of the Western is a regional university. What is the purpose of having a university or regional university that is not able to converge all the scholars and to have a deep reflection on the problems that are afflicting Haiti and possible solutions? I'm not suggesting here that the powers that be are going to heed their solutions and their recommendations. What I'm suggesting here, however, is that at least they would have articulated explicitly and would have given a historical um, understanding and awareness. Because a lot of our people in the Caribbean do not understand each other. We do not understand Haiti. Those who are in Jamaica don't understand Haiti. Haiti doesn't understand about Jamaicans. Jamaicans, a lot of times, don't care about what happens in other Caribbean countries because they think that they are at the center of the Caribbean, because Jamaica is the cultural capital of the Caribbean. So they think that they don't have to understand what is happening in the other island nations. However, it's very important, and the Gleaner could have done a better job. Well, they didn't do any job, I should say. That job is really a dismal sort of undertaking. Now, I don't know what is going to happen, because this news, I read this news from another Dominican newspaper called El Nacional, which means, you know, it means national, the national newspaper. El Nacional means the national newspaper. And this is a newspaper that is read by, I would say, the lower stratum of the Dominican society. People of the lower stratum, right, tend to read this national newspaper. And it's called the Nacional. And it suggests here yesterday, I think this article was also published yesterday. Let me look at the date. I'm finding it very difficult to read this article here. Lots of advertisements and so on. But it says here, and I can't even close these sort of things popping up. But it says that for what it is, it says, oh yeah, it was March 9th. So it would have been, you know, was it yesterday? It was March 9th. What today's date is what? Yeah, so it's not, it's probably Friday, I don't know. CARICOM habla de avances en las conversaciones sobre Haití, pero no definitivos. All right, so they're suggesting here that CARICOM speaks of progress, avances, progress in conversations about on Haiti, but not definitive, mean that they do not have anything definitive. There were no definitive progress. There was nothing definitive to um, divulge. So there will be people. Now, what I think I should have brought to your attention was the people who are going to be in the meeting in Kingston today. It says here that OPM, which is the Office of the Prime Minister, confirms, this is coming from the Jamaica Observer, by the way, OPM confirms high-level meeting of CARICOM leaders on Haiti in Jamaica. The OPM in Jamaica stands for Office of the Prime Minister, so that's what OPM means, the acronym. Now, a meeting involving Caribbean community CARICOM heads of government is set to take place in Jamaica on Monday to discuss the multiple crises being faced by Haiti following a week of escalated violence by gangs in the country. So a release on Saturday from the Office of the Prime Minister confirmed the meeting, adding that it will be held under the current chair of conference President Irfan Ali of Guyana. Now, look at the people who will be attending the meeting. The meeting will seek to advance discussions on support for Haiti as well as the way forward for Haitian governance pursuant to Haitian-led and Haitian-owned solutions which have been facilitated under the guidance of the CARICOM Eminent Persons Group, that's EPG, comprised of former Prime Ministers Bruce Golding of Jamaica, Perry Christie of the Bahamas, and Kenny Anthony of St. Lucia, the release said. And I wonder why Bruce Golding is heading that thing, because he was deposed by the United States in 2010. So what can Bruce Golding say to Haiti as someone who was deposed by the US? Now, Prime Minister Andrew Holness, that's the Prime Minister of Jamaica, in the release highlighted the deepening security concerns in Haiti and how they could affect not only the residents of the country, but also the region. And that is very important for you to understand, that this is not just a crisis for Haiti. This is a regional crisis. It is a regional crisis, and I would dare say it is an international crisis, because what happens in Haiti is going to happen in other countries. I can tell you that. And if the powers that be win this battle, which I think they will, we are doomed. Democracies around the world are doomed. Because these people, and I'm in no support of gangs, but when it comes on to crisis and you're not getting justice from the government, that is what is going to happen in many countries, including in Jamaica. That seems to be having there is a very thin line between law enforcement and, you know, the and criminal um, underground elements. Very thin line. And that is why we have a high homicide rate per annum, because there is that thin line. And I think we are about to cross that line. And when we cross the line, as Haiti has just crossed that line, we're going to have a similar experience that we are witnessing in that island nation of Haiti. As a result, he said that participation in the meeting from CARICOM heads of government in the Bahamas, Barbados, Dominica, Grenada, Guyana, Jamaica, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines, as well as the 8 international partner countries. 8. That is interesting. And when I read that the UK would be involved, that is when I came to the conclusion that this is the second Haitian revolution. This is going to be another Haitian revolution. The question is, who is going to win this time? Now that we have this grandiose technological apparatus with, drones and all of these things, who is going to win? That is the question. Now, as well as the 8 international partner countries and the United Nations invited by the heads of government would signal the seriousness of the ongoing situation in Haiti. I noticed that former Prime Minister of Jamaica, PJ Patterson, who is a much knowledgeable person on the Haitian situation, is not invited. I think, give him his credit, Prime Minister PJ Patterson. I'm not sure, could be that he's not well, not physically well. I don't know, because he should be a man in his upper 80s, right? Maybe 88. I'm not sure how old PJ Patterson is at the moment, but he is by far has a better knowledge. He has a better grasp of Haitian history, not only their political history, but their social history. I think that he should be involved if he is at all in good health conditions. But, remember now that PJ Patterson in 2004 was the one who sought to provide some haven for the then deposed president of Haiti, Bertrand Aristide, Jean Bertrand Aristide, to which the United States opposed, right? The United States of America threatened Jamaica that if it had indeed provided any permanent asylum for the then deposed president, then they would have felt the ire of the United States of America. And for that reason, Jamaica had to just, invite him there for a couple of days, for a few days rather, and afterwards he was exiled to Central America. Not Central America, but Central Africa, they get called, right? That's the former president of Haiti, Jean Bertrand Aristide, and he was exiled to Central Africa, some country there. I can't remember the country to which he was exiled. Now, this is what is happening. One of the things that we need to understand is that the ports in Haiti have also been controlled or are controlled by the gangs. It means, therefore, both the ports and the airports, which means that, the people are going to be in subjection and in subservience to the gangs. And you know what gangs do, right? And we can talk about freedoms and that they have to do what they have to do, but there are going to be exploitation from both sides. This is a crisis. This is a regional and international crisis, unprecedented in our lifetime. And I don't think that it is getting the coverage that it merits. We're hearing only about what is happening in Gaza and Yemen and other parts of the world. But here in the Caribbean, that is at the back door of the United States, very limited coverage is given to this debacle. And what is very interesting is that Americans, the normal American doesn't seem to understand the implications, the ramifications of what is happening in Haiti on the ground. I think most people are thinking that this is just another upheaval that will be resolved in short time. It is not so this time. Haitians are very, very much determined that they want to forge a new nation, that they have got to put an end to the exploitations that they have had to endure for all these years. And in another video, I will be looking at US policies, historically and present, toward Haiti. And we've got to give, again, the historical understanding, even if it has to be repeated, because that's how you're going to remember it, if you constantly repeat it. For example, we suggested that the United States as a free country that severed ties from Great Britain in 1776, wrote its constitution by 1789, wrote it and it was also ratified by then, and then its Bill of Rights in 1791, and 1791, the same year in which the Bill of Rights was ratified, that was the time that the Haitians rose up against their colonial masters, against their slave masters. And the United States did not recognize Haiti as a free, independent nation for over 60 years. And the only reason for which the United States recognized Haiti as an independent nation in 1862, in the midst of the Civil War in the United States, the only reason why they did that was the time that the southern states seceded from the Union, right? The southern states, remember now, the southern states seceded means that they separated from the United States, from the Union, right? And the United States, the northern states were, and those who were part of the Union were scared. They were fearful of the fact that those rebellious states, the southern states now that were in rebellion, would have joined forces with revolutionary Haiti to win the northern states. And it is something that we need to highlight on this channel. And that's why it's important to read the history. And if you have read it, to reread it, and always to keep it at the forefront of your minds, right? But the Southerners, for a large chunk of the Civil War, were actually winning the war. Something that we sometimes tend to forget, that they were winning the war and caused a lot of injury to the northern states and those who were fighting for so-called freedom, which, as we know now, is more complex than that, because we know that Abraham Lincoln and many of the Northerners were not against slavery, right? They were just merely against the fact that these Southerners controlled the US Congress and had amassed too much power to themselves. And the capitalists didn't like that. So you had these capitalists, the capitalist of the plantocracy and the capitalist of the manufacturing world. Let's put it that way, right? They were at loggerheads. They were both capitalists, but they had a totally different worldview and how they wanted to expand their capital. But it was not because they were pro or anti-slavery. Well, of course, the South was pro-slavery because that's how they generated their income, their wealth, their profits. But the Northerners, which had a more developed industry, manufacturing industry, they thought that that was not the way they wanted to move forward. And the Southerners wanted to expand slavery across the United States, which would have interfered with some aspect of that manufacturing model versus the slavery outlook and the plantocracy model. And that created this conflict. So the slaves were not initially involved or were not meant to fight in that war, because these two worldviews, in terms of capitalistic worldviews, they just wanted to, they think they could have fought it out and they could have solved the problem. But thankfully, what's his name? Frederick Douglass was able to, to warn the president and to advise him that he needed to have included Black people because only Black people understood what freedom was all about. Only Blacks, because they were undergoing slavery. And even though white America did not want to make it appear as if the Civil War was about slavery. And that's why when you had this other, that Republican, um, what's her name? Haley, her name is Haley, whatever. Yeah, she. When she was saying that, the Civil War was not about slavery, she was correct and also wrong because they didn't want it. The authorities, the powers that be, didn't want the Civil War to be centered around slavery. Nikki Haley, that's her name, Nikki Haley, right? They did not want the Civil War to be centered around slavery. But Frederick Douglass told them that give the slaves the arms and they will fight because they were hungry for freedom. And it was when African Americans went to fight the Civil War that the Northerners started gaining some victory because they were passionate. The African Americans were passionate about gaining freedom. Now, are we seeing the same thing in Haiti? And as the Haitians are fighting or are on a quest another time to free themselves, not of the physical shackles this time, but of economic, political, and military shackles that have been imposed on them by these former colonial powers. What will be the stake? How will this eventually play out for democracies around the world? And I would suggest that we revisit the history of the French Revolution and the history of the Haitian Revolution and compare and contrast these two revolutions. And I think that it will give us some insight as to what is going to happen and how this is going to eventually play out, and it's going to restrict eventually a lot of our freedoms that we hold so dear. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you for your attention, for paying some attention to my analyses on what is happening on the ground in Haiti. Remember to like, to share, and to subscribe, and to leave a thoughtful comment. Look forward to seeing you in the next video. Have a great and blessed day.